whites as superiors. Um, in order to see whites as superiors, black people were taught or they were basically exposed to a reward and punishment system that rewarded you for elevating whites and punished you for challenging the elevated status of whites. And so that's a meritorious manumission. That's what that was called. Next, the other thing they needed black people to be was totally dependent. They did not want you to be independent. That's why, for example, to this day, that just the idea of talking about black people being independent of whites is seen as a type of hate. Like they get angry at you. They criticize you. Like somebody like me, right? If you ask them, does Boyce Watkins dislike white people? And a lot of people will say, yeah, he does, because he preaches that black people should be economically independent. And so, and that's interesting to me, because I think that black independence is separate from disliking white people. You don't have to dislike white people to want what's best for your own people, because all you're simply doing is telling him or telling the world that you want the same thing that he wants for himself. White people don't want to be dependent on black people, so why would black people want to be dependent on white people? White people do not need black people's approval for anything. So why do we think that we need white people's approval for anything? And if I make that statement, why is that so radical? Why is that a statement that would lead people to say, oh, that's hate speech? No, it's only hate speech because you hate freedom. You hate the truth. You hate equality, right? So if I tell you that I want to be free and independent just like you, that there's nothing hateful about that statement at all. It's simply me loving myself. Loving myself has nothing to do with me hating a white man. I ain't got to hate nobody in order for me to love myself. In fact, the more I love myself, the less time I have to really sit around and hate you. Because really, if you really go deep with it, in order for me to really obsess about you and to hate you that much, deep down, I really am saying that I love you, right? The more I scream and holler about you, the more attention I'm giving you, the more I'm upset. I'm expressing the fact that I'm upset that you haven't given me the approval that I'd like to have. Okay, so let's keep going. And another thing that they always wanted for black people, and this is on table 10, page 164 of Black Labor, White Wealth. They wanted black people to be racially divided, and they did that through destruction of family and racial unity. So the more black men and black women hate each other, the more of a white supremacist concept you are actually implementing in your community. So the hatred between black men and black women, these gender wars, is that's a manifest form of white supremacy. Also racial unities. The more you get caught up in these, what Dr. Anderson refers to as horizontal issues, the more you're manifesting white supremacy. Horizontal issues are what Dr. Anderson says are issues that have nothing to do with the advancement of black people. And so you have to be really thoughtful about that. So on page 164 of Black Labor, White Wealth, which you can get a copy at PowerNomics.com, Dr. Anderson says that educational institutions carried out their essential purpose of servicing the economic ends of white society. They prepared white children to be leaders and masters of their own fate. White youths were taught academic skills, cultural values, and the pragmatic responsibilities of leadership. The schools passed on the doctrines of white supremacy and black inferiority to both races. Black children suffered centuries of planned ignorance. During slavery, it was illegal to teach blacks to read. Today, they attend inferior, ill-equipped schools. So before it was illegal to teach a black person to read, now they just pretty much send you to a crappy school, and they make it illegal for you to send your child to a better school that's in a different neighborhood. That's why Kelly Williams Bolar was sent to jail for sending her child to a school that had a better educational system. Next, American businesses played a role in tailoring the national policy on blacks to their wealth-building interests. They formulated new economic principles of capitalism that defined blacks as human commodities and their labor as cheap tools to produce wealth. American government functioned as a guardian of white wealth and power. White society used government power to enhance or maintain their own privileged positions and to reduce the social and economic status and potential of blacks. Government guaranteed white control over the fruits of black labor and control over the work process. Government later sustained the inequities by perpetuating the myth of equal opportunity. The myth of equal opportunity, perpetuating the myth of equal opportunity, right? So equal opportunity to me has a couple of myths. One is the myth that we are in a society that has equality. Give me a yes or no. Do you think that America is a society that renders equality for all? Yes or no? Give me a yes or no in the chat if you think America is a society that would be considered equal or to have a semblance of equality. Okay, so most of you are saying no. Here's the other myth. The other myth of equality isn't just that we falsely argue that America is an equal society. The other myth of equality is that equality is even possible in the first place. It is a myth to believe that America will ever be an equal society. It will never be equal, especially if you ain't sharing the resources. If you and I are equal, we might be equal in our humanity. But if you have $1 billion in the bank and I have nothing, are we really equal? I mean, are we really equal? I mean, are we equal in terms of opportunities and possibilities and things we can do for our kids? You know, I mean, sure, we might both be good people. We might both be smart people. But I don't think that's equality. I don't think a billionaire is equal to a person who is homeless. It doesn't mean that one's better than the other. It just means y'all ain't equal. So this idea that you can even begin to, first of all, the idea that you can pursue equality, period, is a damn near impossible concept in a competitive society. The world is competitive. The world ain't built on equal. So that's you ain't gonna, in a football game, you ain't gonna kick a field goal and have the ball land on the crossbar. It's not gonna land on the goalpost. It's either gonna go through or it's not gonna go through. You either gonna score or you're not gonna score. That's it, right? So or if you flip a coin, it's gonna be heads or tails. It's not gonna land on its side and be stuck in the middle between heads and tails. That equality myth, that is nonsense. The third level, so we would hopefully I convince you to at least consider the idea that one, equality doesn't exist in America. Two, equality is not really possible in America. And then three, even if equality was possible and you made a national effort to pursue equality, you cannot talk about equality without talking about the economics. If you're talking about equality and you ain't talking about economics, then you ain't really talking about nothing. You ain't talking about nothing. So all these conversations about, well, we're achieving equality, we're pursuing equality, we want equality for everyone. We want little white girls and little black boys to hold hands. I don't want to hold hands with a little white girl. I want to hold hands with a black woman. That's it. I don't need to hold hands with a little white girl. And ain't nothing about holding hands with a little white girl that's something that on any level is going to convince me that I live in an equal society or that I had a come up. It is white supremacy that trained you to even believe that holding hands with a little white girl was a come up, that somehow your life is better because you now hold hands with a white girl, because now you done drop the black girl's hand so you can hold the white girl's hand because you're like, baby, I'm doing better. Well, that's another manifestation of white supremacy, right? Because remember those NFL players that used to think they were literally doing better because they marry a white woman, right? So come on now. This is crazy. So let's keep going. He says also on page 165 of Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claud Anderson. That's what we're reading. You can get a copy at PowerNomics.com. Please support this man's work if you can, if you have it in your heart and you're buying Christmas gifts. I hope you will go to his website and do a cash mob and just scare the hell out of him and his wife by crashing the website, by demanding everything that they have going on, because these are my favorite people and they are as sweet in private as they are in public. And I love this man like a father. And that's why I will represent him to the grave and beyond. So I don't know who's going to be around longer between me and Dr. Anderson, but whoever's around when the other one's gone, we're going to keep this thing moving. Okay, so let's keep going. American government functioned as a guardian of white wealth and power. White society and use government power to enhance or maintain their own privileged positions and to reduce the social and economic status and potential of blacks. Government guaranteed white control over the fruits of black labor and control over the work process. Government later sustained the inequities by perpetuating the myth of equal opportunity. So government later sustained the inequities by perpetuating the myth of equal opportunity. So they create a completely unequal society and then tell you that it's an equal society, so that when you say that it's not an equal society, they say, what are you talking about? Like, everything's fine, right? Nothing to see here, folks. So once the public policy for blacks was established, all members of the alliance were committed to vigorously supporting it, whatever the cost. A sense of commitment to the policy was a part of the broad sense of white community cohesiveness. So they literally rallied and bonded over black oppression. Right? That's crazy, right? That literally brought white people closer together. Because you go to Europe, the Germans and the French, ain't really that cool. I mean, Germany invaded France and literally hung the German flag right in the middle of the Champs-Elysees, right in the middle of Paris. The Germans ain't cool with the French. Right? You know, and the English are hanging out with the Italians. No, they ain't cool. Mussolini and Winston Churchill, they were trying to kill each other. But yet, when you come to the United States, they all agree, like, look, we in this thing together, and all of us as white people have to find a way to control these dark-skinned sons of bitches so that we can make sure that we are doing okay financially, that we can survive and prosper on the backs of these savages that we brought in from Africa. Right? These black-skinned people that we recruited from another country, the same way a white university recruits a bunch of black basketball players, and they say we must make sure that we unite around oppressing these college athletes to ensure they never get paid, so that the University of Southern California can continue to build $10 million buildings on their campus. Right? It's the same idea. It is almost in economics they have examples like oligopolies and cartels and all that, and basically it ain't nothing but just the gang affiliation. Like, let's all get together, we all in the same gang, we all have to come together because we have a common threat. The common threat is the rise of the black man, the rise of the black woman. So we are going to unify to ensure that we can not only control these people because we're scared to death of them, but also we can exploit them along the way. So I ask you this, black people, what has changed? What's different about 2021? I mean, are black people not being exploited anymore? Are they not making money off you anymore? I bet you I could give you 10 examples where they are. Black women spend their last nickel on hair, but y'all ain't getting that money. The hair salons are owned by other people. Right? The media you consume, the schools, you send your kids to inferior schools, and they build these inferior schools because some white person's making them. They're writing the textbooks, they're running the schools, right? When you show up and vote, they take all the power, and they take care of their friends with that power you give them when you vote. They don't come take care of you. If they did, then you wouldn't have neighborhoods in cities all across the United States where black children are dying every single day. Black folks can't get a nickel. Black business owners can't get a nickel to start a business. Right? So this is interesting, right? This exploitation continues. I want to even talk about the prison system because that literally is slavery, like literally, like that's legally slavery. So let me keep going. Psychological and social conditioning process. So this is where Dr. Anderson talks about how whites went to control black people psychologically, right? Because, you have to be a good slave. Like, part of the reason you were selected for slavery is because you were the best available option. They could have enslaved Asian people. They could have enslaved other white people. They could have enslaved Native Americans. All those groups were bad for various reasons. Either they couldn't do the work, it was too hard. You're durable. You can do the work. You're tough. Native Americans, they'll slit your throat, and they knew how to get away. And also, if you took away their people, they would come find that person and then kill the person who took their child away, right? But if your mother's all the way in West Africa, she can't get on a boat and come to the United States to come get her baby back, right? I mean, which right there, just the excruciating pain of even going through something like that is just unbelievable to even fathom. Somebody taking your child across the ocean, you can't even get on a boat to go get them. I don't even want to talk about it because it makes me very sad to even think about that. So the psychological and social conditioning process, the national public policy on blacks was structured to incorporate the psychological and social conditioning process for blacks and whites that evolved over the course of American history. Slaveholders' absolute power over blacks allowed them to operate an efficient and effective slavery conditioning system. Slaveholders constructed internal controls on slaves that minimized the external force necessary to control them. Basically saying, if I control your mind, I don't have to control your body, right? If I get you in the head mentally early, I keep you stupid, I keep you lazy, I keep you ignorant, I keep you going backward, then I ain't gotta fight you, right? So that's, to this day, a lot of our people that we see that, the Negroes on TV, they can't fight white supremacy. They don't even know what it is. They don't even know that it's there. Right. And then, it's harder for a guy to fight if he's, think about this, right? I'm probably a nightmare for these people because not only am I smarter than 99% of the white people I've ever met, but also I'm not really afraid of them, and I understand their systems extremely well. So so think about this, right? Why is it that a gun-toting thug could be in a music video talking about killing people every day of the week, and they can embrace that, but a guy like me, or let's say a Farrakhan or a Nuri Muhammad, is seen as a threat? I know Nuri Muhammad and I know Minister Farrakhan. They are very nice people. They ain't hurt nobody. Why are they seen as threats? Well, because we have awareness, right? You didn't get to us. You didn't poison us with your little poison darts before we got to adulthood and manhood, and we're able to confront the system and see it for what it is, right? So and that's just a little side note. If I ever come up missing, or my body ever gets found in a bathtub with some heroin needles, I need y'all to like make sure y'all tell everybody that he didn't do it. I need y'all to play this clip and let them know, oh shoot, COINTELPRO got him. And so I just need y'all to go spread the word and make sure everybody knows. I ain't even worried about me. I ain't worried about me. We've already won the battle. We've already won the battle. I done spoke to millions of people. Y'all gonna take the message and run with it. You're already doing it, right? You're sharing it with your kids. So I'm not even worried about me in that level. I just want to kind of throw that little thing in there and let y'all know, like, no, Boyce is anti-drug. So I want you to just make sure they know that. All right. So anyway, let me keep going. So slaveholders' absolute power over blacks allowed them to operate an efficient and effective slavery conditioning system. Slaveholders constructed internal controls on slaves that minimized the external force necessary to control them. The government provided the environment for the legal framework that allowed the conditioning process to exist and operate for 250 years. So government stepping in was critical because they were able to pass laws that allowed whites to control blacks. So the slaveholders conditioned blacks to serve as good slaves. The effects carried over into the freed black society and affected the general behavior of blacks as a race of people. Table 10 indicates some of the major goals, techniques, and strategies employed in the conditioning process that forged a helpless, submissive, and manageable black labor force. Helpless means you don't feel like when somebody says do for self, you look at them and say, what that you crazy, what's wrong with you? Right? You make fun of people who say do for self as opposed to actually hearing what they have to say. Submissive, meaning that you do whatever they tell you, right? They tell you, hey, Big Pharma says go and put this in your body, and you're like, okay, no problem, massa. I'm not making fun of you. If you did it, I'm not making fun of you. But as long as it's your decision, I'm okay with that. But a lot of people did it because that's what everybody else is doing, or because that's what they told them to do. I don't agree with that. But if you decided that that's what you want to do, then I support you 100%. Okay, so I want to make sure that's clear, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm gonna make fun of you if you got the jab or didn't get the jab. I think that's your choice. Just make sure it's your choice. And also a manageable labor force. Manageable labor force, just a manageable force, period, right? You could be talking about labor force, you could be talking about a political force. Manageable is interesting because you see this in politics a lot. You have black leaders who inspire and push black people to be free and to do what's best for themselves. And then you have what I call Negro managers. Negro managers are people who basically, they don't serve black people, they sell black people. So they go to some authority and the Biden administration or whomever, and they say, I have 1 million Negroes that listen to me. If you pay me money, I will make sure that they listen to whatever message you want me to share with them, that they do what you tell them to do. And the Negro managers are the ones who get very upset when black people upset the apple cart. When somebody comes along and simply says, just do what you want to do, and I like this. I like to believe I've been in that category. I mean, I pretty much just say, well, just do what works best for you. I mean, I can be an advisor, but I'm not going to tell you what to do, right? But I can tell you what I think, right? They get very upset. They don't like that, right? Because before they were able to really control the narrative, but now things like social media have opened up, which has led to a broader expression of ideas. And a lot of ideas, when you're really talking about the things that are going to make people's lives better, you don't really have to convince them to do it a lot of times. Like when I started talking about things like building wealth and investing, I didn't really have to work that hard to convince black people to understand the value of things like, I don't know, financial security, or having money in your pocket, or passing something to your children. Like, that was not a hard sell, right? And so, but what is a hard sell is convincing Black people to go serve a corporation for their whole life and do work that is absolutely meaningless. That's going to leave them dying in debt and destitution. That's a tougher sell. You're going to have to work hard to convince people to do that. Okay, so once people get exposed to freedom, whether it's a human or an animal, animals know what freedom looks like and they like it. And when you give it to them, they don't want to go back to whatever they had before. And that's what you're seeing now. You're seeing kind of a broad awakening. And so let me keep going. The process that was designed to instill in Blacks strict discipline, a sense of inferiority, belief in the slave owners' superior power, acceptance of the owner's standards, and a deep sense of a slave's helplessness and dependence. The slave owners strove to cut Blacks off from their own history, culture, language, and community, and to inculcate white society's value system. So in order for you to regain your strength, you're going to have to reconnect with your own history. Maybe this helps, right? Dr. Anderson has given us some history that I think is incredibly valuable. Reconnect to your own history, your own culture. What is your culture? A lot of people think Black culture is the crap they see on TV. That ain't Black culture. That's white culture in blackface. Or maybe Black culture in whiteface. I don't know. But anyway, that's a white man's interpretation of what they think Black culture needs to be. You have these like shows like Harlem. Like somebody was telling me about this show Harlem that just came out. And they were talking about how basically Hollywood, through their whole agenda, like they gave a triple dose of their whole agenda, under the masquerade that this show is representing Black culture. This is representing Harlem. And then people suddenly start coming back to me with these crazy scenes that are in this script. And they're like, a Black person could not have written that, right? And if you go back and look at the writers on the show, I bet you're going to find a lot of people on that show who are not Black. I don't know who the writers are, but ultimately a lot of these, it's crazy to me. It's the weirdest thing to me when I see a Black show and they'll have like 4 Jewish writers. I'm like, what the hell, man? What Jewish show can I find that has 4 Black writers? Show me that show right now. Show me an example where Black people are allowed to interpret the Jewish experience. I don't care how good of a writer you are. They're not going to let you do that. They are not going to allow you to bastardize who they are because they know that image of themselves is too important. Okay. Just a reminder, don't forget, Friday, we're doing our event on Forex. So just to remind you guys, if you want to learn about Forex, we just started partnering with Courtney Logan. He's awesome. I'm very happy. He's part of our Black Business School family, and it's free. So go to boycewatkins.com. Excuse me. You can go to the top of the page. That's where you can find the link. It just says, Friday Forex event or something like that. So feel free to go to boycewatkins.com if you'd like to join us Friday. I'll be there, but I'm going to literally hand the mic to Courtney and let him do his thing. All right, so let me keep going. Page 165, Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claud Anderson. PowerNomics.com is where you can get a copy of the book. So he says that Blacks are still burdened by the legacies of such conditioning speaks to its effectiveness. So the way you know it was effective is that you're still doing it to this day. Though some slaves resisted, the system worked because the majority of slaves gave passive approval and cooperation to the slaveholder. That in turn made slavery more profitable and permanent. So it was all about the money. Had slaves been determined not to cooperate and to sabotage production, regardless of the cost to themselves and their families, they undoubtedly would have changed the course of history and perhaps spared their descendants centuries of suffering. So here's a little lesson about fighting. I learned this when I was a little kid, and I got picked on by this bully when I was going to school. And I didn't fight the bully because I was 13 and he was 16. And if you're 13 years old, a 16-year-old looks like a giant. He's a grown man. He got hairs coming out of his chin. I didn't have none of that, right? And I remember that this bully was messing with me every day. Every day he would block me. When I was trying to get to my house, he would block me and just really, like, it was terrible. It made me miserable. It really made me mad. Well, one day I just decided in my head, you know what? You're not going to bully me no more. I don't care what happens. We just going to have to do this. And I walked up. I started walking to my house, and he got in front of me. And then I stepped over to walk around him. He stepped in front of me again. And then I stepped over again. He blocked me again. And then I just froze. And you know what I did? I just looked him in the eye. I gave him that look. I gave him like a look like, I'm sick of this shit right now. I'm probably going to lose this fight. This is my logic. Seriously, this is important. I remember thinking, I'm probably going to get my ass kicked today. I'm really going to he going to jack me up. But I'm going to make him bleed. I'm going to bleed more than you, but I'm going to make sure that you're bleeding too. That literally was my only goal. My goal went from thinking whether or not I could win the fight to saying, I'm just going to fight. And I didn't know that by simply deciding to fight, I had won a fight. You win a fight by deciding to fight, right? And do you know what happened? He backed down. He said, oh, I was just playing. And he let me go by. And I learned just from that experience that when people know that you're going to fight, they change their behavior completely. Now, if they know you're going to bend over and take it, and you think that by bending over and taking it, that's going to make them bully you less. No, they're going to keep going because you presented yourself as an easy target, right? So our people, I'm not blaming our ancestors for any of this because they were under some conditions that we can't even imagine. But here's the thought. The thought is, why didn't they enslave the Native Americans? Well, because the Native Americans said, look, you might kill all of us, but it's going to cost you. You're going to have to pay for that. We will fight you until the death. You're going to have to kill every single one. We're going to have, if you go to World War II, I remember that the Germans became very frustrated with the Soviets when Hitler invaded Russia in World War II. They were frustrated because the Russians, the men weren't the only ones fighting. The women were like, I can hold a shotgun too. I can cut you with a butcher knife. Like, I'm not going to sit here and just whine and cry because you done busted up my village. No, we're going to fight you till the death. That's tough. It's tough to control a group of people who simply have a commitment to fighting no matter what. And there's something to that. You don't have to win every fight in order to win fights, right? In some fights you win even when you lost because you simply showed up to fight. And so what I would encourage you to do is really in your own life, always show up to fight. Show up for the damn fight. When you're starting your business and you're scared you might fail, at least show up for the fight. Your kids can learn from you. Maybe they'll do better next time, right? Whatever it is, you're trying to lose weight or go to the gym or where, at least show up for the fight, right? You're trying to fight, but whatever it is that matters for you, whatever it is that you believe that you want out of life, that you would go after if you had the confidence to do it, I'm encouraging you to just show up for the fight. Because that's a big chunk of the victory right there. That is a big chunk of the success right there. If you always show up for the fight, then the world can never defeat you. The world will never defeat you. And there will always be a benefit to the fact that you showed up to fight. The Haitians showed up to fight. Yes, Haiti paid a huge price for the fight, but at least Haiti was able to do something that nobody else has ever done. Right? So always show up for the fight. That's it. Just in your life, show up for the fight. So that's what because the big goal of white supremacy was to say we want to demoralize them so much psychologically that they're not going to show up for the fight. In fact, they're going to help us to control them. And that's your biggest problem, is that you have people that are conditioned to not only not show up for the fight, but to actually help the predator win the fight, right? To give the predator everything they want. And you're not dealing with people who have the same conscience that you have. You're not dealing with people who believe that the nicer you are to them, the nicer they'll be to you. You're not really dealing with people that are going to simply say, gosh, what I did to you was really terrible. Because you told me Black Lives Matter 87,000 times, I'm now going to change my behavior. They're not built like that. They're only built to respond to you or to respect you if you kick them in the nuts. Like, seriously, if you walk up and you stab them in the face with a toothpick, right? You might still get beat down. It's still going to cost you, right? You still going to pay a price for that, but they're going to look at you a little different. They going when they show up next time with an eye patch, with a patch on their eye, they're going to give you a type of respect that they never gave you before. So at least show up and be ready for the fight. Okay, I think that's the lesson. That's the lesson I'm getting from this book right now. And I'm kind of drained right now. I think we've read a lot today, and we've covered a lot of space. We're on page 166 now. We're going to cover meritorious manumission next week. So join us next week. You can log in at blackkeystogreatness.com also, because there's a lot of stuff from the life class. It's all free. I just want to give it away. These are basically my formulas for success. Basically, I want you to be successful. I want you to win. I want you to have the confidence and the heart and the passion to know that if you put the energy into it, you can accomplish anything you want in your life. So all that's yours. Just go through it. It's really good stuff. You can log in at blackkeystogreatness.com. Also, again, the Forex event is on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you're interested in Forex, you want to learn from Courtney a little bit, just check that out. Go to BoyceWatkins.com. It's right there at the top. All right, guys. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm about to go and eat pizza with my little girl. I love you all. God bless you. And I will see you all very, very soon. So always remember, always show up for the fight, period. Love you guys. See you soon. Peace.